Hey, First Baptist Church, our normal Wednesday afternoon update. You'll get it maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, depending on when you check your email and how you look that up. But we are well aware of things changing all around us, unprecedented times. I want to share a little quote with you as we begin. It says this: all voices agree together, secular and sacred alike, that we are coming to an unprecedented time of trouble in the world, and we shall never again see anything that could be regarded as normal times. Wow. Those are pretty strong words, are they not? They were penned sometime before 1992 because the guy who wrote those, Ray Stedman, passed away in 1992. So these are unprecedented times of unprecedented times. We've seen them before, those kind of times before, but it seems as though things are different for us, maybe because we're living in the midst of these times. We want to make you aware of some things that are going on around here in these unprecedented times, and we're making some changes to accommodate some things and trying to not necessarily come back to normal or even a new normal, but just we know some changes needed to be made, or we wanted to try some things, and so we've been forced to change, and now we want to take advantage of the opportunity to change some things. So I want you to be aware of just the schedule. And first of all, the first thing on the schedule that's going to change is August 30th. Jot that down. That's a Sunday. That will be the first Sunday that we do not have two services. We're going back to a single service, and that will be at the time that we had before, 10:45. So that day we are going to take the Lord's Supper together, and we felt like that was a good time to go back to one service. We will expand that again if we need to for room, so that we can spread out a little bit. And we want you to know, social distancing is up to you. We want to practice that. We want to be responsible. But we want you to feel comfortable either way, no matter what you're doing. If you're not going to wear a mask, then we would ask maybe you sit a little closer to the front so that people who slip in the back are more concerned about it could wear a mask and then slip out before the crowd. So that's okay with us. We've never mandated masks. We know they're hard to breathe in. I experienced that firsthand Sunday evening around our prayer time around the schools. I got a little lightheaded as I was praying during that time. So we want you to know that, but we're still going to have the stations. We're still going to be spread out for people who want to spread out. And so here's everybody's got a different opinion about this, and we want to be responsible. We want you to keep you safe. We want you to feel comfortable. We don't feel like the virus is of imminent danger. And maybe that's the word that I want you to hear. But we do know that it's real and that it's affected people in very strong ways, even amidst our congregation. So we want to take precautions like we would any virus that was going crazy. So we are still going to do those things, but we are coming back to one service August 30th. And so please put that on your calendar and come take the Lord's Supper with us and celebrate communion around the Lord's table together. The second date I want you to be aware of is September the 6th, and we've updated you some on this already, and that's the date our Sunday morning life groups are going to regather. We have some other life groups that are developing off campus during this time, especially our young adults. But our Sunday morning life groups are going to start that day. So we, instead of putting them between the two services, we've elected, because of attendance in our early service, the lack of need of that at the present time, we're just going to go the way we went before. At 9:30, our life groups are going to meet, and hopefully we'll have a better number and be able to spread out as much as we need to spread out. And then at 10:45, we'll have our morning worship. And so if you haven't registered for those life groups or fill us in whether you're going to be a part of that so we can get a good count on that, we'd encourage you to do that at fbc-dc.com. And by the way, all of these things are going to be up. All of these dates will be up on the website if they're not already on that by the time you see this. So please be aware, September the 6th is when life groups here on campus, Sunday morning life groups, regather. Then the third element of change that I want you to be aware of is September the 9th. Wednesday evenings are going to be a little bit different. We want to focus on our children and our youth on Wednesday evenings especially. And so we're going to make some changes. And one of the things that Ricky wanted to do and wanted to try for some time, and this gives us an opportunity to do that, is separating our junior high and high school. They get out of activities a little bit different time, and their level of maturity maybe is a little bit different all the way from 7th grade through 12th grade. And so we're going to try something for a period of time by separating them. And so in order to do some of that and accommodate some of that, and we are going to start our meal at 6 o'clock. There are other factors involved in that. We have, in the past, we've had lots of kids who gathered at the church beginning really about 4:30 and just kind of hanging out. We need to know who's coming in and out of the building. We probably should have known all along just for safety's sake. But now the changes are happening in our culture. We just need to identify who's in and out of the campus here at First Baptist Church. And so we are starting a meal at 6 o'clock. And it's not just for junior high and children and families. Senior adults can come and join us. Just know that we have something else planned for our senior adults on Wednesday at lunch. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but Wednesday at lunch, beginning again on September the 9th, senior adults are going to meet at the Senior Citizens Building for a time of prayer and Bible study there. We're hoping to reach out and reach some other senior adults in our community that we might not be able to reach here at the church. So on Wednesday nights, there'll be no prayer meeting. That's going to take the place of our prayer meeting Bible study here on campus. And that frees up our sanctuary for our women's study. Now, two things on the women's study. We're gathering in the sanctuary for two different reasons. One, we need the fellowship hall to feed our junior high and high school students at different times. We need the fellowship hall to spread out a little bit more and allow our children to be dismissed when they're done at 7:30. Especially when the weather gets a little colder, we're trying to make some long-range plans. But the sanctuary is open, and the sanctuary is a nice place. We're trying to build some intimacy in that for our ladies. So that's where the ladies' study will be on Wednesday nights. Again, we're making these changes while everything else has changed. So I hope that is all made sense, and I hope I've covered everything I needed to cover for our schedule. August 30th will be the one service date. We'll take the Lord's Supper. September 6th, Sunday morning life groups start again at 9:30. And then September 9th, our supper starts at 6, and our children's in junior high starts at 6:30 along with men's study and women's study. And then our senior adults will meet at 12:30 at the Senior Citizens Building, and our high school will meet at 7:30 p.m. In the basement as they normally do. Now let's get to Daniel real quick and just talk a little bit about where we're headed in Daniel and how crucial it is to think about the future, not just in terms of scheduling and programming, but in terms of our world. Daniel is a book that is known as apocalyptic literature. It, along with the New Testament book of Revelation, is there's some pretty wild visions and symbolism and numerology, numbers used there. And so we need to look at that a little bit different. Now, to this point in our sermons and our study of Daniel, the first 6 chapters we've gone through are really historical sort of chapters, and usually had to do with kings and interaction with kings there. And there's a little bit of prophecy, prediction of the future, and telling of what's going on. Now we're going to reverse those two. In chapters 7 through 12, we're going to see mostly prophecy and a little bit of history. And so take note of that. And now as we look at chapters 7 and 8 the next couple of weeks on Sunday morning, we're going to be looking at visions that actually happened during the time of the king we looked at last week in chapter 5, Belshazzar. So it's not written chronologically, and that can be confusing. And then you've got these wild things that are going on. Especially chapter 7 is the vision that kind of sets the groundwork for the other 3 visions that are going to take place in chapters 7 through 12. So there's going to be 4 visions altogether. There's some other things thrown in there. I just wanted to give you kind of a format. This week we're going to look at chapter 7, and we're going to look at God's perspective on really what man's perspective was in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It's all about history. Or this particular vision, these animals, is about what's going to happen in the world. Some of it has happened already, but some of it is yet to come. So remember back in chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has that dream about this colossus, this huge statue, and you got the gold head and you got the silver arms and chest and the bronze belly and thighs, and you've got the iron legs, and it symbolizes empires. You got the Babylonians, and then the Medes and the Persians, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans. Well, in Daniel 7, you have animals. You got this animal parade, and you have this lion with eagle's wings, and it symbolizes Babylon. And then you have this bear gnawing on some ribs that symbolizes the Medes and the Persians. And then you have this leopard with 4 heads. And after Alexander the Great, the Greeks, there were 4 generals that took over after him. So that leopard, most people believe, as the Greeks swooped in swiftly, represent the Greeks. And then you have this weird looking beast, and that's really not named as a beast that of a kind of beast that we know, but it says it has iron teeth. And so we would interpret that as Rome and the Roman Empire. And then there's some other things that would happen later on in that chapter, like there is in chapter 2, that are to come. And that would be the new Roman Empire, kind of the end of the world. And when we know the Antichrist and the Christ do battle, and all of what happens in what we call eschatology, the end times. So you see that in the beginnings of that in chapter 7. We're going to go over more of that on Sunday. I just wanted to set some groundwork for looking at that and helping you interpret some of that right now. And I do want to read a few verses, because really I think the important part of chapter 7 comes in these verses. In Daniel chapter 7, it talks about an important character that you and I will be very familiar with. Now, here's what it says about him in verse 13. Daniel sees this vision, and he says, I saw the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. And his kingdom, one that shall not be destroyed. That passage reminds me of another passage in Philippians 2 that says this: therefore God has exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Daniel 7 talks about the Son of Man, one like the Son of Man. That's what Jesus used to call himself as he was on earth. That was his favorite name for himself, the Son of Man. He wanted to identify with humanity in that name. You know, Son of God tells about his deity, or the Son of David tells about his royalty, but the Son of Man tells about his humility. You gotta cut that out. But the Son of Man refers to his humanity and how God became flesh. And when Paul writes about that years later, he's telling us what Daniel told us some 600 years before, that he's the one that's going to rule forever, and everybody's going to bow. And we want to make sure that we bow on this side of eternity, on this side of death, before we have to bow on the other side of eternity, the other side of death. We don't want to be forced. We want to choose to bow to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And so when we talk about a relationship with God through Jesus, we're talking about a changed life, a transformation, allowing him to be our King. We're not talking about a simple name on your church, on the church roll, or walking an aisle, or praying a prayer, or even being dunked in baptismal waters. We're talking about a real relationship with the one who is going to rule forever. We want that connection with him. If you don't have that connection, I want you to have it, and I want to explain to you how you can. Simply, it's understand you need it. Admit that you have fallen short of the glory of God, that you're a sinner, and believe that Jesus died on the cross to pay for your sin. And then choose this day, if you haven't, to follow him. Don't just call yourself Christian. Call yourself and then be a follower of the one true King, Jesus Christ. I hope you'll join us this Sunday. I hope you'll also be praying the Daniel Prayer Challenge, and praying for revival and spiritual awakening in our country. Remember, Sunday we talked about, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. We need healing. We need revival. Pray with me, won't you? Father, I just pray for wisdom for our leaders. Lord, I pray for compassion. But I also pray, Lord, for the free reign of your Spirit in our world. Lord, Send a revival. And let it begin with me. In the name of your precious Son, Jesus, I pray.